Beautiful people of YouTube, welcome to my latest and greatest breakup advice video. I am, of course, Breakup Brad, and in this video I'm going to talk about how long it typically takes to win back an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend. Of course, that answer to that question is going to depend on your specific situation, but right here in this video you're going to learn all about it, so keep watching. Now guys, when this video is over, please do a few important things. Comment below with your questions and feedback, click the like button and the subscribe button, and visit my website at breakupbrad.com. And do all that stuff as soon as you finish watching, all right? Now, how long does it normally take to get back together with your ex? Now, this is a super common question, and it's actually a pretty good one too. And as I said, the answer is, basically it depends. So in a second, I'm going to cover several possible scenarios that you might be facing, and the general prognosis, give you a general prognosis for each of those common situations. Now, before I jump into it, remember one very important thing. You cannot rush the process. If you try to take shortcuts or ignore my advice and do too much too soon, you're almost certainly going to push your ex even further away at some point, and that's only going to set you back and make it even more difficult and more time-consuming to win back your ex. Now, trust me on this one, please. Don't try to speed up the process or ignore my advice about how long you need to wait before doing certain things to try to reattract your ex. It's almost certainly going to backfire on you. Now, on to a few common situations and what each of them means in terms of how long you can expect it to take to get back together with your ex. Scenario number one, your breakup was recent, within the last 30 days or so, and you've already done everything that I teach in my X Factor program and here on YouTube from day one. So essentially, this means that you've done all the right stuff to help reattract your ex, and you haven't made any major mistakes. In this type of situation, which isn't very common unless you're smart enough to find my YouTube channel and register for the X Factor guide right after breaking up, the outlook is usually very positive. Now, if this does sound fairly similar to your current situation, then you do clearly have a good chance at getting your ex back, and that is likely going to happen fairly quickly. Now, there's no guarantee that you'll succeed in starting over with your ex, regardless of how well you handle things after the breakup. But typically in these situations, you can expect to have your ex back within around 6 weeks or so. So in other words, within a couple of weeks after you finish the 30-day no contact period. Now, sometimes no contact on its own is going to be enough, and your ex may even ask you outright to take them back after just a week or two after you start ignoring them. Now, that is a best case scenario, but it does happen quite often. Sometimes, it will take several in-person meetings and lots of flirting and attraction building to completely change your ex's mind about breaking up. But as a general rule, you can expect things to happen fairly quickly, within 1 or 2 months or so usually. If your relationship wasn't serious or you only dated your ex for a few months before breaking up, that may cause things to take longer or reduce your odds of success in general. But for most of you in this kind of situation, you can expect success fairly quickly. Now, to find out if your current scenario falls into this category that I just described, just take the free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz. And that quiz is going to tell you your odds of success. And a higher score in the quiz, kind of over 75-ish, for instance, suggests you're in a situation similar to the one that I just described, and therefore there's a really good chance that your ex will take you back in the near future. Now on to scenario number two, which is where it's been 2 to 4 months since your initial breakup, and you've been following my advice closely for the past month or so. In other words, you fumbled around a bit for a while after the breakup, maybe you made a few mistakes, and you've now put an end to any unproductive or possibly even harmful behaviors, and you've started applying no contact, or you've already finished the full 30 days of no contact. Now, in a situation like this, assuming you and your ex were serious and together for at least 6 or 8 months or more, then you're probably going to be able to turn the ship around within 4 to 6 weeks, assuming you do exactly what I recommend in my X Factor program, and you don't cave in and make a mistake that can set you back weeks or even months. Now, as you all probably know from watching my other videos, the key to winning back your ex is to completely reverse their mindset. Remember, the day that he or she dumped you, they saw you as sort of a low-value romantic partner and felt that the logical thing to do was to move on and try to find someone better. But you can change their mind using the psychological tactics that I teach, and in doing so, you'll basically be resetting their feelings about you and your value generally. So really, that's why it may be another 2 months potentially before you're able to seal the deal with your ex. Your ex will need time to let go of the negative thoughts and feelings and become attracted to you once again. Now, if your ex was more uncertain about the breakup generally, and maybe even started having regrets soon after you began employing the no contact phase, then things will be easier and will progress more quickly once no contact ends. On the other hand, if the breakup was ugly, or you screwed up and you hurt your ex and made them feel angry for some reason during the final days of the relationship, then you might need 6 or 8 weeks to fully reset their emotions and rebuild their attraction for you. Eventually their attraction and the fact that they miss you like crazy is going to cause them to ignore any rational reasons for breaking up and forgive you for any wrongdoings. And scenario number 3 is when it's been 3 to 6 months after the breakup and you've made a number of serious mistakes since breaking up, or your ex was very upset and angry at you when you first broke up. Now this could be a situation where you've made some significant mistakes already that you know that have already hurt your chances. Things like repeatedly begging, pleading your ex, or even bringing out your inner psycho and when you showed up at their house or randomly sent them drunk texts gushing your heart out. Or it could be just that you completely ignored my advice and you failed to employ no contact at all for months after being dumped. And now you're suddenly starting to wake up and get things right in hopes that it's not too late to fix things with your ex. In fact, even if you haven't made any big mistakes and you've listened to some of my advice, but your ex was furious about something that you did or said at the time of the breakup and hasn't completely forgiven you yet, then you're also probably in a similar situation currently. If this is where you're at currently with your ex, then the road to starting over in a new relationship is gonna be long. It's not usually impossible, especially if you begin really sticking to the 3R system and the techniques that I explained in my X Factor guide. But it's going to take at least a couple of months, typically anyway. You might get lucky and your ex might be particularly emotional and prone to heartache, but it's not going to be quick or easy to get them back most of the time when you're facing this sort of scenario. Now you could find out your odds of success by using my quiz, as I mentioned earlier. breakupbrad.com/quiz is the URL. And once you take that quiz, your results report will tell you more about where you stand and how much work you have ahead of you to get them back. The quiz is completely free. It takes 5 minutes, and the quiz link is also in that description below the video as well. All right, and on to scenario number 4. Whether it's either been a year or longer since the original breakup, or it's been 6 to 12 months, but you've made numerous major mistakes during that time. Basically, folks, this is the boat you don't want to find yourself in. There's no lifeboats left, and you are a long way from shore. Don't lose hope completely, especially not if you haven't confirmed how bad things really are by taking the quiz that I just mentioned. But don't get your hopes up and hope for an immediate quick fix that's going to make your ex come running back. Now, I hate to sound harsh, and there's no sense crying over spilt milk, but if you've got to this point, then you probably should have sought my help a little sooner, or at least had better control over your emotions and actions that led you to this dire situation that you're in right now. Now, sometimes you might do everything right and still end up in a bad spot like this, but most of the time it is because you did everything wrong for months after the breakup. And now, of course, you're facing a tough uphill battle that's going to take months or even longer. So this is when it's time to think hard about whether you still really have any shot at getting them back at all. Now, I have previously made a video about this exact topic, how to determine whether it's time to give up trying to get your ex back altogether. And I will link to that video in the description below. But you should also take the quiz as well, because if your score is bad, below 60 or so, then it's likely not a matter of how long will it be before I get them back, but rather how much more time do I waste trying to save a sinking ship. Now, if there is still hope at all, then expect to spend a minimum of 2 to 3 more months rebuilding your ex's attraction and repairing their mental image of you before they'll take you back. And go to breakupbrad.com/quiz to figure out if things really are that desperate, and hopefully you will score at least 55 to 60-ish or above. And finally, scenario number 5, your ex is remarried, your ex has gone to court and taken out a restraining order against you, or your ex has passed away. Now, if that describes your situation, sorry, you're But most of you are not in a hopeless situation, so please start doing things right, beginning right now. And you should be a month or 2 at most away from having your ex back in your arms again. Now, what you want to do right now, start by watching the free full video on my website, or actually better yet, sign up for my X Factor guide to get access to the entire system within the next 5 minutes. And you can do that at breakupbrad.com/buy. And of course, as always, feel free to leave any quick questions or hate mail in the comments below so I can get back to you personally. And that is a wrap for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your ongoing support, and I'll see you again in my next video.